Hey! Morning, everybody, and welcome to another kerfuffle webinar, a partnership webinar with Rajiv Nayar here, head in hands as he always is when he turns up on my show. You love these, don't you, Raj? Admit it.
It's wonderful participating in the webinar version of a slow motion car crash, and you just never quite know which bits are going to fall off when, but you know that it's all going to fall apart at the end.
You've seen my pitch deck, haven't you? That slow car crash is exactly how I did it. And how are you? I mean, it's been a quiet couple of weeks for you, hasn't it, Raj? Everything going all right on that side?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been busy.
Is that a real cashmere top I see you wearing there? Finest ermine.
Yeah. This is my ironed shirt.
Okay, well done.
Just for you.
Yeah,
almost in purple pink.
Beautiful. And look, stop again. You're one of these people that just hogs the limelight, Raj, and it's outrageous. Whereas here we have the wonderful Trevor Ewins just sat back regally, the king of CRM. How are you, Trevor? Are you okay? Thank you for waiting while Raj, as usual, tried to seize the airwaves.
I mean, it's like obviously go into this on the same basis I've always done whenever I'm in the presence of people who've taken businesses, grown them to the point to exit or stay, in Raj's case, banked a few million quid, and I just sit here going, where did it all go wrong?
The key is getting out before they find you out.
I've always said I'm just that eternal fat ugly bridesmaid sat there watching people around me earn loads of money. It's all on me. It's my own fault.
I have never referred to you as the fat ugly bridesmaid. That is a scurrilous accusation. Anyway, guys, well, there's the wonderful preamble. We haven't even had time to talk about my fantastic hair. In fact, should we just end it there? No, we are here today to talk about two Goliaths of the industry, Fixflo and MRI, getting together, getting it on. And how many times have we heard this story? The background story is this: is you two met at a train station where all true love affairs happen. Who's going to, keeping the clean version, talk us through why this magical thing happened?
Well, I suppose I'll start. I was we were Aspasia then, so we were this kind of little product that had just been bought by Q, and I had a phone call from Raj. I'd never spoken to Raj before, and he said, "Look, got this idea. I own about 200,000 properties or something stupid like that. I can't remember. But he said, I'm a commercial lawyer. I own a number of properties. I'm fed up with the process around repairs and maintenance. Got this concept. Let's meet." So unusually for us, actually, the meeting was in a coffee shop. Maybe the bars in Waterloo were shut. I don't know. But they just opened that mezzanine floor in Waterloo and turned it into something other than the hellhole that it used to be. And I remember sitting, had a coffee, and he showed me that first iteration of the Fixflo app, which is essentially, I've got a leaking tap in Polish. I don't know how tap leaks in Polish, but anyway, and I need to report the issue. And it was so obvious that it was a missing element of what all the CRMs do in terms of that ease of reporting. And it was an easy sort of, seems like a good idea. And arguably probably one of the earliest integration pieces that we look to write. And we'll talk a bit more about our ecosystem and our ethos around partners. But it was probably the first of those that we did where it genuinely delivered sort of real-time savings to the client, and a real sort of important part of the horrible, messy process around that whole part was fixed. So that's the backstory. And now we're all sat in the presence of greatness. So,
And Raj, do you think it is because you dealt with that fairly messy part of it that's been part of the key success to Fixflo? Is that the CRMs, when I was back there, or as Trevor was there, it just wasn't. It was such a tricky area that we kind of just left it alone, and that left you with a niche to explore.
Before you say something, Raj, I mean, one thing I would say is if all of us would have gone back to our development teams and they said, "Oh yeah, that's quite cool. Yeah, we could write this."
Yeah,
go on then, because they invariably can't, because the 50 languages thing was huge. Yes, that was probably as much a part of this as anything. The crack on, Raj. Sorry.
So I think the world's moved on, but if we go back to 2014, where we met Trev, and Simon, we met shortly afterwards, but nothing happened. But you were very nice about it. Well, conceptually, the CRMs were for the internal business operations and processes. And so you had some that started on the sales side or front office, some that focused very heavily and absolutely nailed the accounting piece. But at that time, they weren't really looking at the external participants. And I think that's changed over time. So having something that was designed to improve the sort of efficiency and experience of tenants, that was tenant facing, was relatively new. And now there are various portals. And obviously, MRI has the Engage portal, which does the sort of whole resident journey and local amenities and loads of other stuff as part of that. But that's where we started, and then we built out the solution over time to do the whole repairs and maintenance flow. And because we've stayed so focused, you guys both know how hard it is to build technology. Because we focused on one thing relentlessly for 8 years, we've become quite good at it. And that's basically the Fixflo bit.
No, I love that, and it certainly resonates with Trev. You hear this from dev teams all the time, isn't it? It becomes the coulda, shoulda, woulda approach, isn't it? It's like, well, why did you not deliver this magical thing back to us? But in the same way that we've seen, I suppose, people like Christian at the depository, haven't we, focus on those bits. That specialisation really does. It throws up just real results, doesn't it? Demonstrable, measurable results and that's why I think you see such love from your client base, don't you, Raj? Where, I mean, yes, of course, as we say, always go on Kerfuffle and have a look at the landing pages, and you'll see for both of these companies, named clients talking about their experiences, being very honest from the horse's mouth about it. And you've got an unfair amount of I suppose, Fixflo advocates, haven't you, on that basis, Raj? Because it's bloody difficult, that part of the process.
It comes back to just doing one thing. We know what we are, and our job is every single day to make the process better for every user of our system. That's all we focus on. But it only makes sense if you've got the core system, and we are not the core system. So take MRI sales and lettings as the example. That's the core system, and all of the things, like whether it's the depository or us or Good Lord or whatever, what have you, that feed into and out of that, you need a really strong, really reliable core at the middle with the approach to ecosystems and integrations that make it future proof.
Cool. Well, look, that's the overview stuff. Give me the nuts and bolts. How easy is it? Easy to use? Is it easy to set up? Talk to me about the specifics here.
The danger is we just go, yeah, it's fine. You click a button, you're done. I mean, bear in mind, the initial iteration was essentially passing a maintenance request through. That's all it really was, and that was why it worked initially as well, because we didn't make it too complex. When we look at a lot of the integration pieces we do, some of them are now becoming inherently complex, and quite honestly, the one with Fixflo now is far more complex and ingrained than it ever was before. From day one, it was, when you click this button, it sends a request in, and it just sits in the system until a maintenance manager picks it up. You've got to start from that point and take out that manual keying approach to this guy's got a leaking tap. And we then grew it in all of the applications that we now integrate through. And this is now becoming more of a worldwide relationship with Fixflo for us across product, really. But you have to start from that easy point. And then if you look at, say, our integration in sales and lettings in SLM and the integration with QPM, that is now professional. So it's the whole, sharing information on suppliers, passing a works order through, sort of right through to the point of invoicing. So it's become a much bigger beast, but it has to start from an easy pass. Otherwise, you're never going to get it done. And no one really knows what they want it to look like. And of course, you still have to deal with, but we do it differently. And, that's where it becomes inherently complex. And, there are always going to be issues around it as well. Things you've got to try and fix, things that you fix something else and something breaks. So these things are complex, but you have to go easy first. And when you mention, Christian, that's exactly the sort of approach we're taking with all the integrations we write, is do do the bit that's the biggest pain point but the easy fix, and then grow it from there, really.
And you talk about a bigger beast, and I assume you weren't referring to yourself there.
No,
I mean, Raj, you've always spoke about this about, and I certainly have been aware of it because I'm a bit of a train spotter, but I just don't think people understand the full size and scale of what MRI are about as a business, are they? You actually brought this to my attention before in terms of there are some very well, probably, even more promoted sort of integrations that are out there. But you said when you got under the skin of the way that MRI was going to, what it could do, what it could integrate, the family of products that they've got, and the worldwide nature of it, this is a completely different scale of creature you're dealing with, isn't it?
I don't know if Trev wants to shout out some stats about MRI, but because we operate across a lot of different.
You not know them. I just know big. We talk about the thousands of clients, and the danger with that is everyone just goes, yeah, so what? But I mean, in terms of the sector that we're probably addressing today, the agency sector, we're probably comfortably talking about somewhere around sort of 15% of the agency market, which doesn't sound big. It makes us probably the third biggest in the space. The block management piece is where we probably feature even heavier. So the PM product, that's arguably where we've got the larger client base. But it is way beyond that. You look at PMX worldwide. I know you're talking to colleagues down in Africa, Raj, and I know that there's bits and pieces going on down there, and that's where it becomes difficult in a way as well, because you are talking about different integrations in different ways. But yeah, MRI.
Trev, that means you've had to think what's happened at let's just call it MRI Towers, is because you have got this beast of a business there. They've had to think about the platform and these integrations very carefully, haven't they? And that's the advantage, I guess, when people like Raj want to come to you and have the deepest integration that you do benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, and they learn from each other. I mean, I look at the guys at Agency Central, used to be Thesaurus, and actually the way that the CML guys, so the radar guys, work together with the sales and lettings team, the old Aspasia team, and a lot of that cross-product functionality is what we gain from acquiring businesses in the way we do. It's arguably CML radar, in terms of a lot of its functionality, is stronger than the other offerings, or has been. And we've definitely drawn that information into the other products so that we've got that much more rounded offering. But also we're always prepared to sort of write integration. So, for example, radar is integrated with Fixflo, and even though we wouldn't necessarily promote that product in the market today, it's important that we deliver that to the clients that are on that product, and those clients still see that development. So you can't just say, well, that's a product we don't develop, because you're not helping yourself in the market then, really.
Okay. And Raj, the experience of your teams working with the tech teams over at MRI, that's been a positive, has it?
It has, but I guess I'm going to be really basic about this. I think it all starts with philosophy. One of the core philosophies that, at least I believe to be true of MRI, is open and connected. So in the US, there are different ways of doing things. There are different ways of doing things here. But MRI has been a business that for a very long time has had a philosophy that they would integrate and work with basically anybody for the betterment of clients. And that's sort of carried through. And one of the changes I've seen over the years.
I've certainly seen that certainly comes across, doesn't it? I can't remember any supplier look, you might not have been able to do the integration there or then, but there's always been a conversation to be had, hasn't there, Trev? And I think that is really refreshing, isn't it, Raj? Because as you'll know, when you were knocking on my door per se, there is that philosophical angle is massive, because once you get from looking at this as a gated community, if you like, the old Apple-esque approach, to seeing the third-party integrations as genuinely enhancing the experience of your clients, that becomes a bit of a tipping point, I find, because then you're able to almost absorb the brilliance of Fixflo into the MRI suite of tools, and that should just be a win-win.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, the partner thing generally is, I bang on about this, the fact we've got probably now arguably 50 plus integrations. And there are two distinctions there. We have a lot of integrations. We have a slightly lower number of partners, because partners are different. They don't just integrate. You've got a far more embedded relationship with people that you partner with. Arguably you go to market with a joint message. And that's certainly the case with Fixflo, that it's way easier to walk in the room with both offerings in your product suite to say, look, this is how we basically deliver the solution to you. And at this point, we essentially hand off to PM, and this point we hand off to Fixflo, but it's a seamless process. You'll hear me talk a bit about Agency Home or App Gateway, and this is our single sign-on solution using Okta, where you're not logging into various different applications all over the place. And that's as technical as I get. So that basically is it. So if you start talking about webhooks, you're in trouble, because I'm just like, we don't, webhooks, whatever.
Look, I think the key thing, you've nailed it again there. Obviously, yes, that means you've got to have that. You've got to have that philosophy. I know if I was the MRI salesperson, and Trev, don't get all excited at that. The opportunity to sack me. I'd be so excited if I was going in and I'd actually done some prep for the first time in my life, and I found out a prospect was using Fixflo to be able to go in there with your sales team and say, look, just, I wouldn't even probably start with the MRI bit. I'd lead with that, because that's what agents are looking at now. As you've heard me talk about it. Agents on average have 20 different suppliers, in their kit bag, just on the estate agency and the letting side, not including core business, suppliers there. Now, when you've got that many suppliers on board, it's really fragmented. I talk about it being that Jenga pile of suppliers that, really inelegantly put together. There is a real desire for the best and most efficient agents now to have that stack working better together. And that's why we think we are in a really exciting phase, and why conversations like today will get many agents, okay, they might be saying it would have been lovely to have it a while back, but the truth of the matter is these things take time to deliver when they're done well, don't they?
Yeah, and you often talk about our good friend Mr. White often talks about the huge volume of potential partner stroke integrations that are out there, and you do have to pick and choose a bit in terms of the ones that you not accommodate. It's not the right words, but we know there are all these tech solutions, some of which are just solving a minor issue. And the ones that really stick are the ones like Raj, where you go from reporting a particular kind of maintenance issue to where we are today, which is, an entire part of the journey is now delivered through a partner. Not because we didn't deliver that part of the journey within the applications, because arguably you can still do it that way. Yep. But the way in which they've extracted that part, and again, talking about Christian, the way he's taken out that deposit part and said, okay, this piece doesn't really work within the CRM. Let's give that part a journey that helps the agent and helps the tenant, helps the landlord, what have you. They're the good ones, because you know that you're evolving that discussion. Now, some people say, well, hold on a minute, aren't you just cutting into your own revenue? Because, arguably you're taking parts of your system out, doing them somewhere else, and potentially doing yourself out of revenue from users. We don't really see it like that. It's just enhancing the experience for the client base, really.
Cool. And Joe, just give a flavour. You integrate with other applications as well, don't you? Out there, what have you got already got in the kit bag? What have you got? What can you tell us is coming up?
We're doing some quite cool stuff with some of the more forward-thinking providers around the whole kind of tenant onboarding journey. So obviously agents are realizing that, okay, the tenant feedback came in a while ago, but you have to monetize that tenant as early as possible. So a lot of the stuff we're doing is around, not just referencing. So it's easy to write a referencing API, and, we all have a standard API around that, but it's how you take that tenant on a journey with the agent so that you're essentially, selling other services to them and making that experience with the tenant much more ingrained, if you like. So you've got the point at which you're essentially engaging with the tenant. From then on, you're then talking to them about, you know, insurance, utilities, the other services that go around the edges.
Yeah,
we've seen that those solutions offered independently by different providers, and we're now definitely starting to see that part of the journey come together, where that's a single offering. So you don't release that tenant, oh, yes, past his referencing, that's fine, crack on. You know, the next conversation you're having is about how you're going to insure that property. You're engaging with the landlord about their insurance needs as well, utility switching, as I say, and arguably then right on through to the big sort of booming type vision of, you know, can we sell them light fittings? You know, that you can see where that's headed, but we've spoken about this for many years, and actually I hope that journey works. You know, they're a partner as well. We'd like to see that really come together for Michael and the guys there in the sales and letting space. I know it's mainly predominantly sales at this stage, but you know, that would be cool, that you had someone that could take that individual from the moment they touch the portal, which arguably is probably the first time they're actually having a conversation with that person, right through to the point they've moved in and beyond moved in. It would be interesting to see if that sort of model really does come together.
A full cradle to grave kind of relationship and nurturing process.
Well, almost quite literally, you know, you could end up in that situation, couldn't you? But we talk a message very much in the business about the way people interact with our system. It's not just us, it's partner ecosystem as well. And we talk about the fact that someone out there may well touch one of our systems at some point in their day. You know, if you work in a large office in London, you're likely to now log in to that office when you come in via an iPad that's probably talking to one of our systems. If you go into a shopping mall, you're likely to interact with one of our systems. And that touch point is where we've got to become a lot clever about how these things join up. And ultimately, you know, what you're then into is an entire conversation around data, aren't you? So that, you know, that's almost a conversation for another day, really.
So I'm assuming you've tested this with some early adopters, mutual clients. What are those early adopters telling us about the integration?
Well, the Fixflo integration, to the credit of a lot of our early adopters, has evolved through their requirements. So, you know, we don't.
They've been involved. They've been involved in the whole.
Yeah, we don't sit there and go, well, there you go, it's an integration. Crack on, don't leave us alone. You know, the integration as it looks now, arguably will look nothing like the way it looked probably 6 months ago. It is constantly evolving.
That's vital, isn't it? Because as you said, is agents, they can be really bipolar. They can be, I just want to have exactly the same as what everyone else wants, and then in the very next sentence, oh no, why does it not do it like that? I assumed it. So without having, you know, you can be a bit Caesar-like, can't you, as a CRM company, and say yay or nay to stuff, and you know, Steve Jobs style, unleash this brilliance on the world, and then actually the early adopters about, well, it's good, but it won't work for us because of X, Y, Z. That process you're talking about, if I'm getting it right, enables you to get the vast majority of those niggles out of the way before it even goes out to the main client base.
There are two parts on that. So the first comes back to the philosophical approach. So doing an integration isn't done. It's a living thing. Both systems that integrate or talk via APIs or whatever it is change over time. And so having a philosophical commitment as an organization to connections means that you don't just make the investment at the outset to build, but to iterate and improve and to listen to customers. So that comes back to the philosophical thing. The second bit is this isn't new. So we have been working in partnership with MRI with the companies Trevor's been associated with, which have changed over the years, but all sort of amalgamated into MRI for 7 years. So this has been battle tested, and there remains a commitment to continue to improve things.
That's lovely. I like that angle, that it's not just a one-shot wonder, is it? You know, you will be looking to iterate, improve over time and everything else. And Raj, Trevor, what's the best way for agents to get the most out of their software, from both points of view, you know, with this integration?
I think there's a lot of, I was with an agent last week, and The problem you get is if you allow an agent, or not allow, that's not the right word. If you don't engage with the agent, and if you don't, frankly, spend quite a lot of time understanding what their needs are, their requirements are, you'll walk in after 6 months and everything will be rubbish. It will be. It'll be like, well, yeah, this is rubbish because that doesn't work, and I've reported it, and you haven't really listened. And unless you're having these conversations, because the market's changing quickly as well, we have to understand what people need. But on the other side of that, agents need to follow the E&Y ethos of, not everything. You don't have to buy everything just because it looks quite good. You need to really step back and look at what's genuinely delivering to your business. You go back to our last discussion, our last webinar around how many tech solutions some of these agents are using, and genuinely, what they're paying for those against what return they're getting from them. And it's really quite alarming in that some of these firms are running to sort of over 20 to 30 different solutions in the business, and they don't really know what it is they're getting from those. So you have to step back on a regular basis really and say what genuine return are we seeing from that, using that as part of our process. It's not easy to do when you're running around trying to run your business, but before you know it, you've got solutions in the business that people probably aren't even using, because that's the other side to it as well, is you don't know what people are using.
So to wrap things up, guys, is there a price for this for the integration itself, or is this include, as long as their clients are both businesses, they can get set up? Is that the way it's working?
Exactly right. So there's no additional cost. If you're using MRI sales and lettings or others of their products which integrate with Fixflo, and you're using Fixflo, they're just put the two things together. There is no cost to doing that, and you're going to get huge benefits.
Yeah.
And if you're new to either business, there's no additional cost for activating or maintaining the integration. It's all wrapped in. So,
and they should just get in contact with their MRI or their Fixflo account managers and just learn how to get things moving.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
To do it really, yeah. And and if someone's using one or other solution, we talk regularly. Raj and I spoke this morning, funny enough, about something that broke, which we're now fixing. And this happens. You have to be realistic about these things. You do something for the benefit of something else, and all of a sudden this bit doesn't work.
Yeah, of course,
yeah. We talk on a regular basis. I have to sort of go through his Minion channel now, because you can't directly access people of his kind of stature these days. So, and actually, I know we've got to close, but one thing we didn't talk about, and we need to, is our relationship with Fixflo arguably will be stronger off the back of his acquisition. Wrong word, but people say, well, hasn't he been bought by a competitor? No, not really. At the end of the day, that's not how this works. Yes, arguably, and we'll always come up in a situation where you might feel you're head to head. I don't know. Perhaps more in the social space, but not so much in the residential sales and lettings block space. But as far as we're concerned, the partnership will grow from this, because on his side, you're talking about resourcing in a much more sort of probably robust way. Not that there's anything been wrong with what Raj has had set up, but you're going to get, companies don't buy companies for lots of money and not do stuff with it. So they don't break it afterwards, generally speaking. So
it's going to be very exciting, isn't it? It's going to be very exciting. As long as that man's at the helm there as well, things are going to be good and everything else. So good. All right, guys. Look, very exciting. Lovely to see you. Obviously, to as I said, leviathans of the industry getting together and making that work. Would be lovely to hear some feedback. Obviously, over time, give us some feedback in terms of the, that single sign-on. I know you and I, Trev, that's how we simply think about it. But there will be efficiency benefits out of this. It'd be great to hear some of those as well down the line to learn a bit more.
Nice one.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.